welcome to this presentation about 21st century learning in an ESL classroom. I'm Lauren Moon. I'm an ESL social studies teacher in Metro Detroit. Before we get started, please feel free to pause this video at any time, as the slides may have extra information from what I am saying. Also, before we begin, I'd like to remind everybody that ESL represents English as a second language. ESL students have a primary language other than English, and this is a growing population all over the countries. Today we're exploring 21st century learning. There are what seems like an infinite number of ways to describe 21st century learning. I think Craig Gerald describes it the best in his 2009 article, Defining a 21st Century Education, in which you can see in the quote here. Teachers and curriculum should provide students with skills to thrive academically, socially, and professionally. From their research in the article, what we educators get wrong about 21st century learning, Mishra and Mehta surveyed over 500 teachers what they thought were important aspects of 21st century learning. From what you can see here in this word splash that I created were the words that teachers valued the most when they described 21st century learning. Throughout my research, I found three common themes of 21st century learning: interdisciplinary knowledge, application, and self-awareness. The first theme is interdisciplinary knowledge, which is the idea that content areas work and learn together. In other words, social studies values and skills do not just stop when students leave the classroom. An example of how we incorporate interdisciplinary knowledge in my school is in our whole civil rights unit. U.S. history teachers introduce a civil rights unit about 2 weeks before the English teachers begin reading To Kill a Mockingbird in their English classes. To Kill a Mockingbird is a classic American novel about race and the justice system in the United States. At the same time that students are reading To Kill a Mockingbird, science classes will be studying the scientific method in which students explore ways to evaluate and analyze information and not just believe everything that they read and hear for the first time, which again is a common theme in the civil rights movement and To Kill a Mockingbird. Through interdisciplinary learning, students can see how their knowledge and skills transcends topics rather than being boxed into one specific idea. Included in the idea of interdisciplinary learning is the importance of literacy. Many have explored this idea, such as Andreas Schleicher from the OECD, as he explains that literacy includes interpreting and assessing information. Or as Craig Gerald wrote, the term literacy has begun to mean someone who not only knows a lot about a topic, but who also can apply that knowledge outside of the classroom to successfully tackle real-world challenges, which leads us to our next theme of application. This is probably best summarized through the 4 C's from the National Education Association's publication, An Educator's Guide to the 4 C's. Simply put, during this aspect of 21st century learning, students are using their interdisciplinary knowledge to practice skills that serve students academically, socially, and professionally. An example of the 4 C's, which can also be seen here in an image from Karolik, is also from the civil rights movement. As a class, we divulged into the national conversation about Confederate statues after the Charlottesville protests. Students collaborated with one another together to discuss a statue in our own district of a mayor who is a known segregationist. Our district is comprised of several students of color, of different backgrounds, religions, creeds, and every possible background. They utilized their 4 C's to find a better representative of our community to be memorialized in a statue rather than that previous mayor. Finally, a third aspect of 21st century learning is self-awareness. I can best describe self-awareness through this quote from Craig Gerald's article again. 21st century learning pushes students to be innovative and independent learners for whatever their future may hold. Additionally, we cannot discuss 21st century learning without discussing technology in our classrooms as well. It is important to note that I did not make technology one of the themes, as it is not an individual aspect of 21st century learning. Rather, it should be incorporated at all levels of learning. This is best explained through Mishra's and Kohler's 2006 TPACK framework. Technology should support learning, and so it helps students explore content in effective ways, not just being used for the sake of using it in our classrooms. Technology should help students understand the content better while also gaining critical life skills. So with all this information, we now need to explore where to go. First, as Schleicher explained in his article, The Case for 21st Century Learning, we should focus on how we generate and apply learning. An effective way to evolve schools is through developing curriculum designed for 21st century learning, as opposed to what most of our curriculums look like, which is not designed for 21st century learning. Creating interdisciplinary lessons and units will also help students explore 21st century knowledge and skills. Currently, I'm reaching out with an English teacher to develop interdisciplinary lessons at the start of the school year so students can develop the 4Cs and practice real-world understandings through literacy. A final method to help me move forward is to help students develop online portfolios so they can become more self-aware of their learning and their growth. I think it's important that students start to cultivate these portfolios so they can add them to online resumes or applications for universities or potential jobs. 21st century learning helps educators and students learn and develop and refine skills needed for our futures. Thank you so much for watching this presentation. Please feel free to reach out to me, whichever means is best for you. Thank you.